We are ready. So,
all right.
Okay.
On my end then.
Okay, very good. So yeah, we're going to do a little bit different. It's been at least a couple weeks since I've been on live, everybody. So, and on top of that, we had to take a little time. I had to take a lot of time to get set up, but we're going to use the same format. I do the respectful convo, and we don't debate. We have a discussion, and the aim is to try to get folks from both sides of the issue and have a respectful discussion. So that's what we're going to try and do. We're going to try and do a group discussion. Pierce, I've done like more group SC type, spectrum SC type stuff on here with a lot of success. And it's worked out pretty well. Hey, Mr. Chico, how you doing? Mr. Chico is one of the members of my really, really tiny Discord.
Oh, cool.
Small but growing. Yeah, it's like 30. I think it's like 30 something members, but it's getting there.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Good to see you, sir. Yeah. He's one of our more active discussioners. Is that even a word? Discussioners in the Discord. It is now. Yeah, exactly. It is. So we want to get people on both sides. Yeah. So should abortion be illegal?
Really
should
cool.
Be legal. Yeah.
I like the group stuff. I've done a few group things on a couple different college campuses, especially two in University of on a couple different college of Minnesota. Minnesota. Yeah, Minnesota. University of Minnesota.
Yeah.
And it was a really good experience. I really liked liked how that worked out. So
Yeah, I remember the one you did. Was it on the Wisconsin Green Bay campus? Was that the one? Does that sound familiar? Did you do a group one there? It was with at least a couple of folks, right? And I
yeah,
can't
there
remember
was
the
one there.
topic though.
That was two.
Yeah, there was
It
two.
was about
Yeah,
sex education. That one.
that's it. Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
one. Yeah, that was a really good one. And yeah, and we yeah, typically TikTok is a bit of a different flavor. Sometimes you have to like pick a side for people to come in and watch, but I did pretty well when I stayed neutral at first, and and I got people to watch and join in. Um, but yeah, so if we but yeah, typically if you pick a side, then more people will join because they want to like engage with you, and
Yeah.
then but you can still have a really good discussion. Yeah, I've had a lot of good success
Yeah.
with that.
I found that if you disclose your position, a lot of people think that that's kind of like, what's the right word? Like a sin, like of having productive discussions like this,
I
especially
remember that.
in the street epistemology community, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it has to be exactly like that. I think sometimes disclosing your position can actually put your conversation partner at ease. So
Yeah.
it's yeah, because it's like if they don't know, they kind of make assumptions about your intentions, and
Hmm.
most of the time those assumptions are going to be poor natured when your
Yeah.
intentions probably aren't. I assume your intentions aren't. Hey,
Yeah.
I just assumed. Maybe they don't always assume that,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
It
I
it
think that's a possibility.
yeah. I I agree with that a lot of times because yeah, in a lot of my discussions, folks have uh, for example, when I landed on the atheist side, there was a lot of like preconceived notions, and so there had to be time spent just talking about that, and but
Yeah,
it made for great discussion too. Just to and you explored like different little avenues that you otherwise wouldn't have if you were just neutral. Um, let's see, because in terms of the God talk, knowing you're an atheist makes me hold some things I'd normally say. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and so there's pluses and minuses to it, Mr. Chico. Yeah, that's true. And so I I think I went both sides. But would you say that? Well, actually, you know what? Let's bring him up and we can talk to him for a bit.
yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I'll
Love
invite
to
him
meet
up.
him.
Yeah, Mr. Chico's one of my favorites. He's become a good TikTok friend. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. I'm good. Just a little warning. The kids are running around, so you might hear a little bit of noise here and there.
Ah, that's okay. It's
Okay.
it actually makes it more fun.
Yeah,
And it's Christmas time. Christmas time without kids is not nearly as fun. Holidays without kids. So yeah. So just I brought you up because of what you said in chat.
Yeah.
You're holding back some of the things you'd normally say, like
I mean,
as opposed to if I was neutral.
I wouldn't exactly say I'm holding back. It's more like if you remember the first few times we talked, I'll say like the first 3 times we talked. The third time, I asked you what was your belief or something, and you said I should, check with you in the message. If you
Mm-hmm.
noticed, I never did because I know if I check with you and you told me you're a Christian, I would not want to say the idea that 3 is 1 makes no sense because I would not want to offend you.
I got you.
So
That makes
that's what I
sense.
mean by if I know where you stand, there's some things I would hold back.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean. I see what you mean. No, that makes a lot of sense too. And it was, but and also I think it was also kind of getting to know me too. Would you say? Kind of like what my intentions were, things like that. Because I am a bit different on this platform than other people are. I'm more into the discussion and getting to the, like I said, like I've always been saying, why people believe what they believe and how do they figure out it's true. And that's the part that interests me more than actually trying to convince somebody of my side or my position.
Yeah, but again, the thing with that is the fact that you have a position, there's almost no way you're going to put it that it won't seem like you're trying to bring that person over to your side. Because the way you ask your questions, the way you put your questions, put on your socks or something. Yeah, like the way you ask your question, because if you notice what you didn't notice, but I noticed that every time you talk, you're always trying to figure out what will get the other person to not believe anymore. Like that's one thing you always ask. Yeah. So now me know you're an atheist is like, okay, is he trying to like make me not believe anymore? Because why is he particularly asking that question to everyone? You see what I'm saying? Like that may not be your intention, but now that I know where you're coming from, it gives me some kind of biased view of what you're doing. That's why I didn't want to know where you were coming from. That's why I really didn't want to ask.
No, that's a good point you bring up. I think the objective is to I think we see it. And Pierce, correct me if I'm wrong, or feel free to add on. But I see the conversation technique, street epistemology, as a way to explore someone's belief in a way through challenging it challenging it gently, to kind of gently push the boundaries of that belief and see, why do you believe this? Or, you have this reason why is, let's talk about that reason. Let's explore it. And then to see the other side of the coin of that reason. Well, what if this reason isn't true? Then would you still believe it? And so that really it's to kind of really probe what the just kind of the boundaries of that belief is. That's the way I look at it. And I'm not really interested in convincing anybody, honestly. Now, I will say that people can use this technique to try to convince somebody. It is a way to do it. But I think I've seen videos of people of doing it that way, and it's way more obvious. So that's just my take. What are your thoughts, Pierce?
Yeah, I kind of echo a lot of the same things that you're saying. For me personally, these conversations, the reason that I think they're valued, what motivates me, is if we have this conversation and someone has a particular mindset or goal that they're looking to achieve, and we're talking about, even if it's about a truth claim, and if they were to either be more confident, less confident, or somehow come to a better picture of reality, basically. I think if they are able to do that, then it will only improve their strategy for whatever goal they're trying to achieve. And I think that makes life more wonderful. And it kind of the same goes for me. If I'm able to learn something from them and I'm able to adjust my strategy in life or something, whatever it might be, hey, that's going to make my life better. So I think it's kind of a win-win situation.
Yeah. So let's see everybody in chat. So what are your thoughts on the back screen? It's maybe a little hard to see my back screen, so I may go big for a sec, just so people can see it. But what are your thoughts? Should abortion be legal or not? Either way, if you are for or against it being legal, what are your thoughts? And how about you, Mr. Chico? Should be legal, but here for the glasses. here for the glasses. So the glasses pulled you in, Olivia. Yes, you did, man. So Olivia, we pulled you for the glasses. Okay. So we have 2 for legal. All right. Is there anyone who thinks it should not be legal? And then I'd like to ask why. Why do you think it should be legal, Olivia and Quaid? Addie Joey, it's good to see you, sir.
Quaid. Is it that Quaid?
I don't know. It's a very interesting name.
The picture's so small.
Yeah. Is it?
It might be. I don't know. I can't tell.
Okay. So
yeah,
we got.
It is.
Okay. So we got 3 for legal. Anybody for illegal or outlawed? And let's hear some reasons why it should be legal.
You think TikTok might have a their viewers might sway one way or the other?
I think in terms of the, I may have to restart this only because the algorithm. I may have to change the little intro text to kind of pull people in,
Sure.
just so that the algorithm kind of picks it up, because it's a little bit harder for it to pick up here. I may do that, but we'll wait it out a minute and see.
Okay.
And also, keep the likes coming in, because then that will get people. Will get me on more For You pages. Mr. Facetious, life is precious, and life is precious. I agree with that. And so, Mr. Facetious, when you say that, which side are you on? Legal or illegal? And then what we're really looking for is anyone who'd like to come up and discuss it. Helios, good to see you, sir.
Sorry, my mom called, so I didn't hear anything you guys were talking about the last 2 minutes.
That's okay.
But yeah,
we're just trying to get people on the topic.
Okay. See, I'm more into the religious talk, but let me just give that's my little bit of idea into what the topic is about. So the way I would try to frame it is, well, not frame it. The way I'll try to break it down is, what is abortion? Abortion is
the question.
The unaliving of an unborn. So in my head, I'm thinking, should unaliving be legal? Right? I mean, that question is like the basic answer is, it depends on the situation. So if I can give that, I think I'll just give the same answer to this question. It depends on the situation. Like, if you're just going to do it because I messed up, got pregnant, and I'm just looking for a way out, I think that shouldn't just be a way out. But if it's like whoever it was, like the grape is like a grape or something like I think in that case, you should be allowed to. So it's not really a yes or no. It's more like a depend on the situation. That's just my own answer. It depends on the situation.
Can we narrow that down a little bit, maybe?
Yeah.
Like you said, like a grape-sized fetus, that would be okay, I think you were saying?
No. I meant graping. I can't say the word.
Yeah, we can't say essay, Pierce. That's what we mean. Yeah, there's certain certain words we can't say on YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did not understand that. That was wow. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. And also this is like your second time. So so we just use a lot of euphemisms for things, or try to use like the rhyming equivalent, grape, things like that. Schmurder.
I've heard this before.
Yeah, unalive, things like that.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. And okay. So so like in terms of grape, but what you're saying is, if say a person gets pregnant, and it's like an accident or an unintended pregnancy, you would not be in favor of that.
I mean, unintended.
Is that what I'm hearing?
It could be. How do I put it? Oh, bloody hell! This is what I meant when I said the kids are here.
That's okay. That's okay.
Okay, so unintended. When you say unintended, like there's a whole lot of, should I say? Give me that thing. Really, like it's always the boy. It's always the boy.
It's always the boy. It's always the boy.
So I'm sorry. When you say unintended, it's like a boy and a girl. Look, give me 2 minutes, please. Just give me 2 minutes.
That's okay. All right. Yeah, we'll go ahead and mute up. We'll talk to Ronald. How you doing, Ronald?
I'm great, man. How's yourself?
Hey, we're doing well. Thanks for coming up. So appreciate you coming up. So we're just what we're trying to do, Ronald, is just have a discussion with folks on both sides of the coin of the issue. So which side do you fall on?
Well, I fall on natural law, eternal law, and maritime legality. Yeah, so if you understand natural law, then you would know why abortion is immoral.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. So as I say to you, you know, maritime admiralty law can make statutes in talking shops, you know, with a political illusion of choice. Yeah, but at the end of the day, these statutes are only binding in the sea. So you know, common law of the land understands that these things are, you know, it's not, you know, basically you go to do no harm. So then there's no such thing as, you know, human sexual preference. Yeah. The kosher relations is only in wedlock and strictly for the purposes of procreation. So this is go forth and multiply, like, you know, quantum eternal law, you know, and people can, you know, make their statutes in talking shops, but you know, the trust these trust organizations actually make, you know, their own laws. This is the money that talks. Trust at the trust level. Yeah, so then you know that natural law abortion is wrong. So then how could Planned Parenthood be right?
You know, I want to mention something. When you talk about spiritual or natural law, it's important to recognize that not the whole world subscribes to Western esoteric spiritualism or Western spiritualism. There's a whole other side of the world where if a fetus dies, it is karma, it is the divine play, it is the lila, and it is according to karmic conditions and karmic attributes in cause and effect. So it is part of the divine play. It is a part of that soul's journey to moksha. So if the fetus happens to die in the womb or happens to get aborted, that is a part of its karmic action and karmic repercussions. So in that sense, when we say that we are all individual jiva, individual souls on the journey to Brahman, to the one source, we are saying that there is a whole parethla of cause and effect that goes up and down, and eventually you get there to liberation, you get there to moksha. So, I mean, this is just Hindu. This is the Hindu Eastern perspective of this. When we talk about when sentience, now when sentience arrives, we can talk about that. But I think abortion is fine when there is no sentience at all. When there's no sentience at all, because in order for something to be classified as alive, it needs sentience. So if you're saying that it doesn't need sentience to be classified as alive, then we can argue that it's taboo to kill robots. It's against life to kill robots. So in that sense, when we talk about saving a life and all life, that means everything down to the microbe level, everything that's alive. So I think that, you know, abortion's okay in the case of rape, in the case of medical complications, and in the case of the fetus not having any sentience at all.
So then,
okay,
hold on.
Here, let me jump in. Sorry, Ronald. Give me a second.
Yeah.
Oh, I just and I'll let you respond here in a sec. Just so that we're all on the same page. Let me kind of get a check of where everybody is on the spectrum. You know, so one extreme end is, it should be legal in all cases, and the other extreme is it should be illegal in all cases. So let me start with you, Ronald. On that end of the spectrum, when I say abortion should be legal, to what extent do you agree or disagree with that statement? Would you? Because I get the sense, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you disagree that abortion should be legal. How? What? Like, do you strongly disagree that it should be legal, or somewhat disagree? Very strongly.
I very strongly disagree that it should be legal, because then I understand why the souls of innocent children cry out to the Almighty from under His throne.
Okay.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, if you gather all the faces of the sacred geometry, you will see the face of a child, because yin and yang, mommy and daddy God, they are deeply concerned with the children. And you could go through the Abrahamic religious story. Yeah, God asked Abraham to sacrifice his son, and if Abraham would have said, well, nah, shove it, God, then we wouldn't have known about a Christ riding into Jerusalem on his
let me stop you right there. Let me stop you right there. Sorry, go ahead, Pierce.
I got a question for you, Ronald. If this God that I assume you believe in, correct me if I'm wrong, if he didn't value children, if children's lives weren't important to this God, would you still would you value children's life, or would you take the same stance as this God and hypothetical God and not value these children's lives?
Well, as I say to you, I see value in the creation story. God not only values children's lives, but He values their innocence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like, where does that value come from? Does it just Does it just come from the
I came through all the Abrahamic religions, to find my Israelite faith. Yeah. And then at the end of the day, children, how a nation raises its children is indicative of how that nation will grow in the future. And sexual immorality is rife in the world today. And it's only because if it was as sacred as the Creator meant it to be in holy wedlock, then you wouldn't have rape, would you? People would be in monogamous relationships, and like Indonesia, you could legislate against extramarital sex, because
I think I get the gist.
And there's a biblical word for that, which is whoredom. Yeah, so everything outside of holy wedlock between a man and a woman, is extramarital sex and immoral in the sight of the Almighty.
I'm trying to get down to a deeper level here. That's the reason why I'm going to ask that last question. That's why I'm going to ask this question. I'm wondering what's behind this. Like, if you woke up tomorrow and for whatever reason you didn't believe in God anymore, you were an atheist, would you still feel the same way about abortion?
Well, as I say, look, atheist, his greatest doubt is himself. Generator, operator, destroyer. Yeah. We are
Can
all.
Can an atheist be against abortion being legal?
Well, the atheist's greatest doubt in this realm is himself.
Does that mean they have to be in favor of abortion being legal? I didn't quite understand.
No. As I said to you, the point is that human beings can decide on legality, but law is eternal.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can have our own ideas on what's right and wrong, but as I say to you, the only morality, true morality, knows exactly
I'll be right back.
why humanity is the only game that you can make in this realm. It's quantum.
Okay. All right, Ronald. It sounds like these religious beliefs or belief is the real motivator. I'd like to go back to Caddy now. So you indicated that abortion should be legal. What is your main motivator for believing that it should be legal?
Well, just off of just fact that rape does happen, complications do happen, and like I said, if it doesn't develop a sentient mind, then it's not necessarily technically what we would classify as alive in the sense of human aliveness, because human aliveness requires sentience. So if we go, oh, it is alive, then we have to re-justify what everything in our world is alive. You know what I mean? We have to therefore say everything is alive, because as soon as we say that it's alive before it has even an idea of sentience, then you know what I mean? Like we have to start redefining what alive means. So that's my spiritual argument. Really is it's just cause and effect, and it's the karma, and it's that soul's what we call jiva. It's that journey. It's the part of that soul's journey to moksha, to liberation. And that might sound unfair to people who want an identity, who want a purpose, who want a destination, who want all these other attachments, but it's just it is what it is, and it's always been that one energy. I don't try to put an authority on it, or a maker out of it, or a creator out of it, because in doing such I impose a bunch of things upon it. So when we in Hinduism, what we have is, you see what you call deities, we call them murti, and these murtis are each a forgive me if I'm butchering the word, but I'm American, so my English is not there. But each one of these forms that you see is attributes of the same Brahman, of the same essence. So all forms of the same source, and it's just that particular source's jiva which gets lost in the illusion of forms and attached to the nature of forms. And on its journey through life to life, it learns and eventually it learns that it is Brahman, it is that one source, and then therefore is liberation. So in that sense, when we talk about abortion, for me, if somebody gets aborted, then that's just part of that soul's journey, unfortunately.
Okay, I hear you, Caddy. Okay, there's a few things that I heard there. So a lot of it comes down to sentience, Well, there's two things. In sentience, right? It has to be self-aware or have thoughts, something along those lines. And then you also said that's just part of the journey. So this being happened to die. Therefore, it moves on to the next level, the afterlife, I think.
Next life.
I'm wondering between the next life. Yeah. Thank you for the correction. Between these two things, between the sentience and the just moving on to the next life, which one of these motivates you more to keep abortion legal?
The separation between church and state and the freedom of choice. You gotta understand that in this world there exists a fine line of duality, and in that duality exists a great subjective reality comprehension of that duality. And we live in a democracy, and a democracy should cherish the diversity and the freedoms that which we're lucky to have. If we start living by theocracy type of laws, which would then by declare a fetus, a life when it's not even fully sentient. You know what I mean? It would do that. We are living by under theocratic law. We're not celebrating the vastness of spirituality, the vastness of freedom that we have available to us as a democracy. So it's important that we have freedom of choice, freedom of bodily autonomy for women who can't afford or may have problems or may have a situation where they got raped. So there's a whole bunch of reasons. So you can't go to theocracy and expect. And when you talk about making abortion legal, you are breaching separation between church and state. You are attacking separation between church and state because you're not guaranteeing that particular freedom, that particular choice. Now, I understand we live in a dominant society that's Abrahamic, but we do have a mixing pot of various religions, and to say which is, to make that choice for people is trying to make them confined underneath your morality law. And like I've stated, this world doesn't operate, I'm sorry to say, this world doesn't operate under full Abrahamic morality law. So neither should the United States of America.
Well, I hear you, Caddy. Ronald, I'll get to you just one moment. I'll let you respond. I just want to ask Caddy one more question. So we have like the separation of church and state. I think what you're saying is that we shouldn't legislate based on religion. I think that makes a lot of sense what you're saying. Yeah. I did want to go back to like the sentience. If you were to discover that a fetus, the moment it was like conceived and started, that it was fully sentient. I know that it's a hypothetical. That's probably not the case, but let's say it was completely sentient that moment. How would you feel about abortion if you were to learn that?
I mean, if I was to learn that, it would probably be the justification would probably be that the life that it's alive. And if you want to make if somebody would want to make that argument, then I'd argument that everything around you is alive. And the moment you step on the ground, you're killing 1,000 of organisms that you now have to say are alive and that you are killing. So therefore, your conscious awareness of what's alive has to elevate once you declare that a fetus is now alive and sentient before even developing brains and neurons in the brain to establish that it's that has any type of understanding of its reality. So therefore, you would have to struggle with what you eat, the way you walk, and a whole bunch of other stuff like that. So that's the problem with looking at life without neurons and a brain to be alive. You know what I mean? There's the problem that lies within that. There's a huge morality. You can make the moment you start making, biases or becoming a hypocrite is being like, well, I don't value those microorganisms as much as I value the organism which two biological things created. You know what I mean? It's like, well, two biological things created a lot of things that are alive. You know what I mean? So you have to like you have to.
I'd like to give Ronald an opportunity here. Ronald, what do you think about the reason for wanting abortion to be legal as like the separation of church and state? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, as I say to you, the church and the state and they're all corporations, yeah. And at the end of the day, Buddhism is about respecting the life in everything, yeah, and honoring that, and a child, when that egg fertilizes when that sperm fertilizes the egg, there is a light that goes over that embryo, And this is the light of human life. Yeah, and you know, we are supposed to honor that regardless. And me, I'm living in Mother Earth, which is the womb of humanity. The only other thing is inhumanity. There's no fence to stand on. So, you know, as I say, it's God over devil, good over evil, all the way through.
My only rebuttal with that would be, within that duality lies a understanding of a war that's constantly going on, and a war that constantly causes problems for humans. Moving to a non-duality model, a unification of oneness, such as Brahman, is a more equality and more based in understanding of humanity and a more evolution of the species. Staying in a duality mind where there always exists this boogeyman, this evil, this opposition force, is gonna, it just leads to more destruction and more chaos. But out of that, but even with that duality will always exist, but it's the level of human consciousness that can elevate to understand and comprehend non-duality equal to duality, and understand there's a more harmonious balance there. But when we lead with duality notions such as good and evil, bad and negative, when we lead with these things, we must understand that a lot of these things are subjective reality based, and also some of them are just universal. Ow, that hurt. I learned not to do that again, or I wouldn't do that to somebody else because it hurt. So some of them are based in sense perceptions. But let me clarify, what might be right in one area is not right in another area in our world as it is now. Duality will always cease to produce a subjective reality. This is true. But we, as science has evolved, and as we evolve, we will move to a more harmonious evolutionariness in consciousness, where we see the non-duality, the unification. And when you talk on quantum physics subscribes more to the infinite model than it does the finite model. And in science currently right now, there is no agreement on the infinite model or the finite model. It's not agreed upon in science. There are two camps. Now, quantum would side more with non-duality in a sense that it understands how it could be an infinite universe, which means that it's always been. So when something is infinite, it is eternal. But something that is a creator would need a beginning point, and therefore is not eternal and infinite. So it is one energy. Yeah, see, this is, when I say it's one energy, it's always been, that troubles people because you want to have a purpose, you want to have a reason behind why you are. But the only reason why you are is to experience. And when that experience ends, that is moksha, that is liberation.
Okay. And I'd like to try something a little bit different. And this is probably something that nobody's really used to, but I'd like to do this with both of you, both Caddy and Ronald here. I'll have Caddy, if you choose, so you can go first here. I would like you to, Steelman Ronald, I want you to present his point of view and be as charitable as possible and make the best case scenario for his point of view and for his reasons. Represent him in the best light.
From his point of view, there is a salvation that is based, to me, in a war that will ultimately end in the side of good, and it ultimately triumph, and there'll be peace. So there is harmony in that understanding, and there is notions within the Western framework that are good notions, that are undeniably good notions, and I fully comprehend that. However, unfortunately that's where it ends for me.
Okay, Ronald, was that a good representation of your point of view?
Almost.
Okay, what do you get wrong?
Well, as I say to you, look, the quantum, yeah, is actually what is being proven to be correct. So then if the quantum is right, then, duality, say, for instance, past, present, and future. Yeah. When you balance the duality of past and future, then you're living in the eternal now. Yeah. So as I say to you, creation has to have a creator. Yeah. And so then, the whole universe is a beginning point. And that point is light. And this Mother Earth is the womb of humanity, and it's not even a planet in the cosmos. You only come here to learn humanity, because the soul of humanity is one single human soul, trying to find the milk of human kindness in 8 to 10 billion bodies of flesh.
All right, Ronald, thank you for clarifying. Can you do the same thing that Caddy did for you? Can you represent his perspective and give like the most charitable, most best case scenario for his perspective?
Well, I think that it's quite, I do believe in some of the Brahma stuff, because that's why I say the soul of humanity is one. Yeah. And as I say to you, the creator had plenty of time to, design this environment and make it so that, to make it so that, as I say to you, his perspective could survive and live in an environment which has, eternal regulations. And the source is God, and you are God, and everything that you can see and physically touch is God. And it's conceptual, because, as I say to you, this environment is just like, so as you seek, you shall find. You are the one creating Mother Earth for yourself. That's why quantum theory says that, you and I can observe the same particle, and that same particle could be black to me and white to you. Yeah, because, like, as I say to you, we are God here. So his point of view is it's not an evil thing, but the eternal universal regulations of the universe must prevail.
Okay. Caddy, did you get that right? Is that your perspective?
Not quite, but he did try. You know what I mean? He did try.
Do you think that you guys have the same goal in mind with whether you want abortion to be, legal or illegal, prospectively? Like, do you guys want kind of the let me phrase it this way. What do you guys want? What is the end goal? Why do you guys care about this?
I want a society, yeah, like Indonesia, which knows why extramarital sex is immoral.
Why is that important?
Because, as I said to you, holy wedlock is the framework of the universe. Mother and Father God, yin and yang. Yeah,
and why is this framework important?
It's because it's the sacred geometric frequency in which This is a portal. Mother Earth is not a planet in the cosmos.
Okay. And this like, I don't know anything about that, and to be honest, I don't. But why should I value that? Why is that something that should be important to me?
Well, as I said to you, the humanity must prevail. And at the end of the day, the only other thing is inhumanity. And it's corporate. And it's got its own ideals on medicine and healing and the really and truly, if you fully understand the regulations of the universe, Planned Parenthood would be outlawed. And Planned Parenthood not only own all the abortion clinics in all the world, they also own all the fertility clinics.
Okay. So I think what all this boils down to is you want what's best for humanity.
Yeah.
Is that what this all boils down to? Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. Caddy, what about you? Why is all of this important? Why is having abortion legal important to you?
It's just the freedom of choice, the freedom to be able to do as one pleases with their own body, and the independence that freedom has, and just the freedom of that. Like I said, it's everything is one source, one energy, and it's always been. So for me, it's nothing but the jiva, the soul's journey, from life to life. It's lessons learned and lessons, experiences to be had. It's Brahman experiencing itself in the infinite amount of forms that is. So therefore, what more freedom do you need than understanding that you will one day reach moksha? And if you want it right now, then go for it right now. But if not, you're perfectly fine to be satisfied where things are in the world right now. I mean, if you want to look at focus too much on the negative, you want to focus too much on the positive, you're just fooling yourself. And the nature of reality is the cosmos is always in states of flux. It's a chaotic balance. It's not a get with this or get with that, or it's not a tribal gang type of thing. It's not a dualism type of thing. It's one energy experiencing itself in many ways. Yeah. Let me land it. And understanding that is understanding the equality within that. And when you try to put words like creator or bad and good, you're really just relying on your sense perceptions of things. But if you look, and when we get to going back to the quantum, if you type it in ChatGPT right now, does quantum physics side with the infinite model or the finite model, you'll get a mixed bag review on that, because quantum physics is still ongoing. So, but if you want to look at things, the interconnected relationship between us and everything, then you can do that very easily. It's very simple to look at us and the cosmos and see how we relate. You just got to follow the process of how this particular Earth came to be. You know what I mean? And on and on and on. You know what I mean? So, like,
so what you're saying is that the freedom is a really important value to you. You want freedom for people, and you believe that is what is best for them and makes their lives better. It sounds like.
Right.
So it boils down to, so you want what's best for people. So I think you guys kind of have that same goal. You both of you want what's best for people. Caddy, you want to achieve it through freedom. You think freedom is going to allow people to have the best lives possible. No. And in Ronald, I think you are saying that if you restrict abortion, that that will lead to people having better lives that way, because we'll be in accordance with your religious beliefs and what you believe to be true.
Well, I believe that the kosher regulations are sacrosanct, and as I say to you, in a world where people are in happy, loyal wedlock, these things like rape and sexual immorality, because sexual preference. Yeah, the thing about it is that same-sex human desires are exactly the same as grape, because if in a perfect world, as I say, the holy wedlock would be the model, and people would have natural relations. And there can be, if you understand the first holy wedlock, you'll know that soulmates are true, because the first holy wedlock was as a result of a surgical separation. Yeah, so there is a partner out there of the opposite sex for you, pre-designed for you. Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's about quantum is about this Mother Earth not being a physical thing. It's just light. And we come here to experience this creation in a body of flesh. And your soul is forever. So, you're just choosing good or bad, love or hate, give or take. And in this life, it's better to give than to receive, because this is why all these corporations are deluded to think that they can make profits at the expense of their fellow human beings. And like all these corporate corpses really give individuals like my friend here liberty. They don't give you freedom, because freedom is it. That's the first thing I learned in prison. Yeah, freedom has nothing to do with location. Freedom is about, in this realm, hearing and adhering to the natural regulations of eternity.
Can I jump in and ask a couple questions real quick? Because Ronald, I think you brought up something pretty interesting. You made a distinction between freedom and liberty.
Yeah.
And yeah, so could we flesh that out for a sec? And then I'd like to jump back over to Caddy Joey and get his take on freedom. And actually, I've heard your take on freedom before when we talked before, but just to kind of educate the chat and folks who haven't heard your take, Caddy. But let me jump back to you real quick, Ronald. So this distinction between liberty and freedom you made, you brought up the point of based on your previous experience, it is not relevant to location. Is it fair? Did I hear you right when if I said something like you no matter where you are, you can still have freedom? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah.
Just so I understand.
Because as I say to you, true freedom is within the organic, eternal regulatory framework of Mother Earth. And as I say to you, she's not a planet in the cosmos, but this is where the quantum comes in. She is a holographic projection of Mother God. which is one of the Siriuses. Yeah. So Sirius, the source, is Mother, Father, and the Spirit of God. And the Spirit of God is the projector, which projects them through the hearts and minds of individual human beings. So this is, they talk about alternative universes. Yeah. So Mother Earth is an individual creation or destruction. Yeah. So you choose. You choose to be positive. You choose to give life and not take it. And personally, I'm totally against all these chemical corpse corporations who give you liberties under maritime law, contract law. The devil makes sure that you got a sign on the dotted line on the debtor's left side in debtor's black ink. Yeah, because when that bill comes through the door, yeah, you've already admitted that you're not a creditor, you're a debtor. So you're going to have to pay it with the fake fiat currency. Yeah, so and then me personally, as if you know who you are, I'm sovereign in this modern society in London. Yeah, you will know why that bill has been paid. 3 months ago, the corporation applied to get that money from your credit, and it was paid. And what you pay on top of it is death duty. Yea, though I walk through this valley of the shadow of certain death and quadruple taxes, I will fear no evil.
Okay. Let me jump over to Caddy Joey real quick.
So
you wanted to say something?
I do. The whole problem that I now you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're stemming here from certain Afrocentric spirituality circles that mainly, I guess, 5%ers or maybe Nation of Islam, who and other Black nationalist type of groups who view LBGQT as a agenda or a particular attack on a particular type of group. But if you look historically, and historically, these type of like gay and LGBTQ type people, they've existed historically throughout time, though their history is not necessarily known. But then I want to get into, in Hinduism, we have Shaivism, which has Shiva and Shakti, and they imply each other. Shiva is nothing without Shakti. Shakti is nothing without Shiva. In fact, when Shiva was separate from Shakti, she went into a rage and really got upset. And so they're both, they imply each other. There is no separation between them. In fact, there's a whole deity which shows half Shiva, half Shakti. So that's just an example of how an indigenous culture has had some trans elements within side of it. You know what I mean? And in the Buddha, for example, the Buddha was never depicted as male nor female. Because of the fact that he viewed everybody as the Buddhist potential. And to go back to when you talked about the Buddha doesn't necessarily get involved in people's individual choices because he understands that as their karma. So in Buddhism, yes, we do value life, but we also are consciously aware that not everybody is consciously aware to be able to get to that particular type of level. So, we're not all I've had this conversation with my abbot, and I said, we walk around and we destroy life all the time just by walking, but we're not consciously aware of it on that really deep, compassionate level. How do we rectify with this? And he rectifies this by saying there's nothing we can do about that, but there is something we can do about other things. And that's understandable, but it's not for me to go around. This is why we don't proselytize. It's because we don't view it as our duty to go around and try to convert or gain somebody to our line of thinking, because we understand it is their karma. And in Hinduism, it is their dharma. It is the way, in Hinduism, it is their dharma. It's the way their life is unfolding and the way their story, their lila is going on. And it's a part of their journey. So we don't interfere with how they are. We understand the universe as masculine and feminine energy. We don't really focus too much on gender, because focusing too much on gender is just another construct, a mental construct, by the way, created by the European, who really broke down that particular thing. And then we talk about in nature, biologically in nature, there are some organisms that produce asexually entirely on their own. So if you want to talk about nature, there are things in nature that change their sex, and they're also the ability to change their sex is very real. And so the fluidity of that exists. And gender, when we talk gender is a mental construct. Biology is another thing, but biology evolutionarily has changed. Example, I have blue eyes. I'm from an ancestor that has blue eyes, but he developed that gene, and that's how it happens. We are evolutionary. We change. So I really struggle with this whole, sex as a corporate. LGBTQ identity as a corporate agenda kind of religious spiritual mix, because it doesn't fit reality. It does
I'll give you
reality.
I'll give you a second to respond. I'll give you a second to respond, Ronald. I want to kind of steer it back to the topic of abortion, and namely, I want to steer it back to what, Caddy, you were saying about freedom. I want to kind of unpack that a little bit and explore it. And just to reiterate, freedom is very, very important to you. And this I know of you based on our previous conversations, and you've said it again. So it's very clear freedom is very, very important to you. Ronald made a distinction between liberty and freedom, and that freedom isn't necessarily dependent upon location. That it can be, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ronald, but that freedom can be internalized. Yeah. So based on that concept, Caddy, where does your idea of freedom kind of fit in there, if at all?
Freedom, the idea of freedom is a manifestation of being able to move the arm the way you want to move your arm, talk the way you want to talk, do what you want to do. But ultimately, like I said, there is no free will. You are in a play that eventually goes to the moksha, to liberation. And in that understanding, there's very limited free will as things go according to your karmic traits, your karmic debt, your implications and your imprints. So things unfold in certain ways, life to life to life, for you to learn until you reach moksha, which is the state of the experience of unity with the one source that has always been Brahman. So in that it's sort of like, don't worry, be happy. You're going to be reborn in higher realms, lower realms. You're going to be reborn in different forms. You're going to experience, and eventually you will reach moksha. So when we talk about freedom, what's more freeing than that? The understanding that, whether I don't get it right or not in this life, that I will eventually get it right and reach liberation, moksha. And even in a Buddhist sense, we all have Buddhist nature. If we don't get it right in this life, we'll eventually, reach Buddhahood in another life. You know what I mean? So, in fact, in Buddhism, there's bodhisattvas who undergo a state where they don't want to be reborn, and they just want to keep being reborn to teach others how to reach liberation, how to reach nirvana. So, there is, various in that particular spirituality. There's a good compassion. It's seen as good compassion to become a bodhisattva, because you're negating your own enlightenment to help others reach enlightenment. So in that's compassion right there. So my particular stance is not without empathy, without compassion. It's just a hard pill to swallow because it says it is what it is and it always has been. And what's hard for people to swallow about that pill is they want purpose. They're attached to things too heavily, and they want to have paradise and they want to have, ultimate bliss. But ultimate bliss can be found with just eating a piece of food. Ultimate bliss can be found with an orgasm. Ultimate bliss can be found in many, 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 many ways. But it's just 1 ounce of, a tidbit. It's like a grain of salt compared to liberation or experiencing nirvana. You know what I mean? Like it's just one. You know what I mean? So in that sense, you're gonna, you know what I mean? If you focus too much on the negative, you're going to bring forth the negative and you're going to have those problems. You focus on the positive and, you're going to have the ability to, live within that positive space. If you want to look at everything as a nail to hit across the head, then you're always at war. And if you're always at war, you're always at a state of misery. And in that state of misery, no matter what material possessions you possess, no matter what form of doctrine you want to subscribe to, that thinks that you're safe on a safe base, you're still going to have that little bit of doubt, and there's still going to be, that problem. You're filling a void that never can be filled. So, and that understanding freedom, true freedom is the ability to live, to experience.
Okay.
And to be able to make choices, whether they're bad or good choices. Because we learn from those, we grow from those, and our soul grows from those, life to life, eventually.
Okay, let me kind of explore it this way, because I see what you're saying, and if I'm hearing you correctly, just to make sure that I'm with you on this, is that implementing making abortion illegal, even though eventually, as you say, it will lead to moksha. And that's the ultimate freedom. So am I with you so far?
Life to life, yeah, eventually.
Yeah, life to life. Eventually you'll get there.
Eventually you'll get there. And you'll go up and down. You can go 20 feet back or 20 feet forward. You know what I mean?
Right. Like
20 feet back again. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it really depends on your karmic attributes and everything that's playing out right now. I mean, like you could get it at the end of your life. You could just boom hit liberation. You know what I mean? Like, so there's no telling, how your story will unfold. And you decide how that's going to be. That's where your element of free will comes in. But ultimately, there is no free will, and it's destined that you will, by your traits and your karmic actions, choose certain paths or choose the path that leads you down wherever you are in that grand play, that grand lila. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So eventually, yes, moksha. When? No telling. Could be now. Okay. Could be. You know what I mean? There's no promise.
Yeah. I hear that. And so let me challenge that just a little bit, just gently, Caddy. In that sense. Now, because there are a contingent of people who believe abortion is shmurder, right? That it is taking a life, and that is shmurder. So, and that's wrong. And so, from that perspective. Now, what if, from that perspective, I say, well, in that case, there's this coworker who took my promotion, for example, and that's really impinging on my freedom. That's infringing on my freedom. So I'm going to unalive that coworker so I can get that promotion for myself, something like that. And this may be a very, very clunky analogy, so we can clean it up, but just in that sense. If are you saying and I'm kind of stretching to the extreme, so forgive, but does that mean to say that that we place freedom over other things, or like where on the priority does this go in terms of the recognition or the desire for freedom or the striving for freedom, this moksha, versus stepping on other toes? Because you did make some other references to that, like, hey, there's really nothing we can do when we step on the ground and we're taking lives there. So where's the balance in that? Yeah,
it's based on traits. You understand, for every for every karmic action, there's imprints that go onto the soul, and that those imprints are carried over life to life, and they eventually, like a wrinkled paper, they eventually become flat and straight, and eventually, reach moksha. So, in that sense, the manifestation of evil is nothing but cause actual action and reactions to being lost, to the soul being lost in the nature of forms. Now the soul the soul can remember when it was Brahman, but it has to go through many different sadhanas, exercise, different ways to do it, methodologies to get there. But in order to do that, it has to go through many lives to get to that point where it has grown tired of the experience and now wants to reach moksha. And that particular person will have certain conditions and attributes and things that will set them on the path toward moksha. But in essence, if an evil person exists and those traits exist within that person is just downright evil and wants to murder, right? Well, then those particular attributes exist within that person, and that person is by default fulfilling their own dharma, their own story. You know what I mean? And in that sense, when you talk about bad and good, these are still mental formation perceptions, how we look at these things. But in actuality, it's just really cause and effect of the jiva being lost in the nature of forms, and it has to find its way back to Brahman. And everybody's on a different level of that. Some people are closer, some people are farther away as individual souls. So that in that sense, that is the manifestation of evil, and that is the manifestation of good that you see. Bad and good attributes playing in your reality. That's what you see. That's what you witness, is people who have had many lives doing one thing, and then this life they're horrible or whatever, or they may be a saint, or they may be good. You know what I mean? So it's causes and conditions that play out in different ways. And in that sense, this is where I think people get really upset, is they're like, well, what's the purpose? Well, the purpose, if it's so be it by you, is whatever you want it to be in your experience. If it happens to be moksha, go for it. Go through all the strenuous things that you want to go through to get there. Or if it happens to be being rich, go for it. If it happens to be try to conquer the world, go for it. These are your dharma. This is your dharma playing out the way it's supposed to play out. And eventually you will understand, either higher or lower, eventually you will get to moksha, liberation. So it's don't worry, be happy. You know what I mean?
I see where you're going with this. So at the end of the day, in a sense, it is basically, hey, yeah, just it is what it is. Don't worry, be happy. So let's not worry so much about that. There's bigger fish to fry. Does that sound about right? Like this on that scale, this topic on that scale, there's way bigger fish that we have to fry as a species.
Everything is as it should be, and it always has been. And it's just that you're on the journey to that realization. You might not be there right now. Somebody else might be really cool, evil and a dictator or whatever. And he
got it
right now.
So this is part of the realization. Okay,
yeah,
this is part of the journey.
Part of the journey. Part of the lead.
Got it. Okay, Ronald. Yeah, go ahead if you wanted to respond to what Caddy said earlier.
BBC, and on BBC Radio 4, they have a program called The Moral Maze. And I listened to it for years while I was in prison, but I believe that, the Western morality is labyrinthine because it has no relation to natural law. And as I say to you, the Hindu and Buddhist view of natural life is more concise, but still not perfect. Yeah, because as I say to you, look, the first like Rastafarian commune on the island of Jamaica was a place called Pinnacle. And it was a Hindu commune, yeah, because it was the first cannabis plantation in Jamaica, and the Indian indentured servants who had done their work indigenous to men actually believed that the Rastaman was their god Shiva. Yeah. And the main man on that commune was a man called Mr. Leonard Percival Howell. He was the senior gong to Bob Marley's junior gong because he gave Bob Marley tutelage in Trenchtown until the age of 7. Yeah. And this man, Mr. Leonard Percival Howell, he actually said that I am God and Haile Selassie is Christ. Yeah. I would beg to differ in that, I believe that God, generator, operator, destroyer, we're all God experiencing this realm in a body of flesh. And you're here to create or destroy. So God can be a dog if destruction is your choice. And modern society kind of takes those choices away from you, especially in the Western world, because you have to sign on the dotted line. You're in the contract already. Yeah. And so, as I say, that's why me personally, yeah, I could find freedom in my incarceration because like I've seen the corporations go from reefer madness to medicinal marijuana and cocaine cola to crack cocaine in Whitney Houston's veins and then the chemical corporations, they are all about control.
Here, let me kind of steer it back a little bit, Ron, if I may, because I think I see a bit of another similarity between you and Caddy in this, where would it be fair to say, because this is what I'm hearing through what you're saying, is that in your time incarcerated, you did experience freedom. You had some freedom there.
The freedom was in law,
okay.
and legality.
Yeah, in law and legality.
There's a difference between maritime legality and internal law.
So like following rules or natural law, following natural law. Okay.
Yeah.
Would it be fair to say then, because it sounds like, because what Joey's been saying is that we're headed to moksha regardless, that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Would that be fair to say, Joey? Just real quick.
I would say that if the causes and conditions are correct, it's a matter.
It's just a matter of when. Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah. So eventually, because it sounds like, and then would you say then wouldn't you say, Ronald, that what Joey's kind of saying is a form of natural law in itself?
Yeah, but as I say to you, the Tartarians elevated, they raptured because they achieved that nirvana, which is humanity. Yeah, and within which to humanity, the best things in life are free, and contract law is about signing it over. It's about taking away your individual sovereignty. Yeah,
Okay.
and you know, citizens on this, you know, slave ship it's only about pay as you go. You know, sign on the dotted line and pay as you go. Yeah, but you know, really and truly, because like I've been on this journey for, you know, 28 years, and I've reached my nirvana personally. I had you know, in 1998 I had my great planetary awakening when Lent and Ramadan were in sync. Yeah, and as I say to you, I was on a Christian wing as a Christian pastor, you know, preaching Christ's Sermon on the Mount. And, you know, it wasn't something that I was talking about that I had not experienced. Yeah, because like, you know, drug dealer on the streets of London, I practiced these things. Yeah, so that's why I could preach them in prison. And that's how I found my freedom, in that I could tell the government, I could tell the crown that, you know, just stop oil. And you know, organic medicines are listed in Genesis 1 verse 29, and God speaks about how he would allow these things, well, human selfish desires, both for and against food, sex, drink, and drugs, will enslave and destroy the very souls of people who cease to obey the creation.
Okay. Pierce, do you want to? Here, I'll hand the baton back over to Pierce. You want to run with it for a bit?
Yeah, sure. This is interesting. This is really interesting.
Super interesting, yeah.
Yeah, it comes back down to these. Is it fair to say the underlying reason for both Ron and Joey, is it? Underlying reasons are religious, I think, or at least some sort of,
or belief based, huh?
As I say to you, I'm a person who fully knows why the things that you believe in, love, and trust are all that you will ever be. Because, you know, true faith is investment of self in knowledge of the Almighty. And, you know, true faith has an author and a finisher, in that creation is only about proving the righteousness of the Creator.
Can someone have faith in something and that thing not be true?
No. Faith is only in the creation, in the Creator. And that's why everybody is entitled to their own belief.
Listen, devotion is a very powerful tool. Devotion is a tool that is used in Hinduism to manifest certain attributes of Brahman. And those attributes are represented in the various deities you see within Hinduism. But, however, devotion is also a powerful tool that leads to outside physical experiences, and these experiences are often met with ego, and the ego gets attached to the nature of these experiences and then parades around and thinks that my reality, because I have experienced it, must be the ultimate truth and the only truth. But in actuality, they're supposed to sit with it. They're supposed to sit with it, digest it, self-reflect with it, not get too attached to the notion of the form, but what the form is trying to tell a person. Now, when you have outside physicality experiences, they can only use the nature of your memory to display themselves to you, because because your memory is all there is to comprehend and relate things to other things. So when you have an experience, when you are indoctrinated in a belief and you have an experience, you're supposed to sit with that profound experience, self-reflect on the meanings of the experience. You're not supposed to go, oh, my army, my tribe, my people, my this, that is right and everybody else is wrong, because that is not true in the nature of reality. A person cries and is compassionate for Krishna just as much as they are compassionate for Christ. However, to say there's a to say there is a creator, that there must be an authority, means the lack of freedom. It is a lack of freedom, because when you have an authority, a creator, you have to live within the confines and rules and regulations of said creator. He becomes an authoritarian. And when you look at the Abrahamic faith, aside from Judaism, when you look at the Abrahamic faith, they went hand in hand with colonizer empires, people who would use trade as a way to insert their beliefs upon other people. So when we look at indigenous faiths, they were more.
Let's reel in a little bit, Joey.
Dear friend,
That's
I am the difference between Abrahamic faith, Israelite, and Abrahamic religion, which is Egyptological. Yeah, Islam is the moon worship. Jesus is the sun god, and as I say to you, these human understandings of the cosmos is not of creation, but at the end of the day, the creation will prove itself, and on an individual basis. Yeah, so creation or destruction is through you, whether you believe it or not.
Okay, I've been listening to both you guys. I've been hearing you guys out, and
yeah,
I want to know if one of you guys is right, and if one of you guys is wrong. If both of you guys are wrong, but if both of you guys are right, I'd like to figure that out. And I would like you guys to tell me how I can figure that out. What can I do, test, learn to figure out whether Ron is right or Caddy is right?
Okay, I'll answer that one first. I like that one. That's a very, very good question, because like what I experienced in Swellside Prison in 1998 was Lisa Left Eye's 42 days of fasting. You ever heard of Lisa Left Eye?
Yes.
Yeah, she was in the group TLC, and she got with Dr. Sebi in Honduras. And when she came through the fasting, he asked her, "What did you see?" She said, "I saw God, and I'm going to make you famous." He said, "How are you going to do that?" She said, "I'm going to tell the world about you." Yeah. And like, as I said to you, this knowledge that, Dr. Sebi died in a Honduras prison of poisoning. Yeah. And Lisa Left Eye died on the road back to America from Honduras. Yeah. And all these Abrahamic religions were made to break the faith out of my people. That's why Jamaica has per capita the most churches of anywhere else in the world. Yeah, there's mosques there as well. Yeah, so this Abrahamic religion is what was used to scatter. We, the Levites, yeah, we are the Levite priesthood.
I'm hearing you so far, Ron. I'm wondering how this would help me figure out if you're right or if Caddy is right.
Like, as I say to you, that's what I would say to you. Hunger is a very good friend, yeah. And Lisa Left Eye done her fasting with CMOS minerals. Yeah, your body is made up of minerals, and Dr. Sebi said that there's only one human dis-ease, which is compromise in the mucous membranes. Yeah, and what Adam and Eve did wrong, to destroy their innocence, was something they ate. So that's why all human disease is in the mucous membranes. Yeah, and petrochemicals have no relation to the human body.
So if I'm hearing you right, you're telling me that I should go on a fast, and then once I do this,
well,
how do I figure it out from there?
Well, there's people who have reached nirvana on this earth today eating twice a week. And I believe the Tartarians elevated in the fact that they didn't have toilets or any water closets in their buildings. They didn't eat.
Okay.
So
I go on this fast.
As I say to you, you will definitely, fasting heals the body and the mind. Yeah, less is more.
Okay, I go on this fast. Yeah, my mind's doing good, my body's doing good. How do I figure out which one of you is correct?
Well, as I said to you, yeah, personally, I'm just trying to, establish this legal framework. Yeah, the law of the land here in London. Yeah, and as I say to you, I know for sure that I am the new true blue Israelites Lucifer. The difference between Lucifer and Satan is lightness and light and darkness. Yeah. So, as I say to you, I don't know about my friend. I don't know about my friend down there, but I don't know about my friend down there, but in this life, we suck 'em and we see, and those are not my words. Less is more. And, George Orwell in his book 1984 described this LGBT, human sexual preference as the 2 + 2 = 5 government line, which if they're convinced the people, then it's okay to go forward with the population control.
Okay, I've heard you out, Ronald. I'd like to go to Joey. I think that's Caddy. What about you? What could I learn, discover?
I got you.
Find out. Yeah.
You could, for me, I would recommend, sit with the Buddha. Sit with the Buddha. Go to a Mahayana Buddhist temple. The Buddha will teach you the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, and then you'll come to a fork in the road eventually with Buddhism, where you might disagree with the no soul theory that Buddha proposes. If that happens, then you shift your attention to Buddhism. Keep in mind, not to Hinduism. Keep in mind that in Buddhism, there is different meditation methodologies that focus on breathing and identifying the sounds and getting in touch with your breath. And there's also, if you're a Mahayana Buddhist, you don't have to worry about not eating meat. Though if you decide to go into become a bodhisattva and take your 7 precepts, you will have to forego eating meat.
All right, we're gonna a little further down the road here. So I'm sitting with the Buddha, all right, and he's teaching me these Four Noble Truths, I think you said.
Yeah, an Eightfold Path.
Okay, an Eightfold Path. Okay, how do I know that he is telling me what is true? Why should I trust the Buddha?
The Buddha doesn't and abbots don't answer questions based on like you ask an abbot a question, he'll give you a question, and then you'll sit with that question, you'll self-reflect on that question, and you yourself will arrive at the answer to that particular question. And then you gauge your progress based upon under the comprehension of the Four Noble Truths, and then how you go about following the Eightfold Path. And then once you get there, you start moving kind of into more of the metaphysics of Buddhism, which involve the no soul theory, where there's no soul. Buddha doesn't believe there's a soul. So if that doesn't sit right with you, I would recommend going to Hinduism. And where to start in Hinduism is you can start with the Bhagavad Gita and then go into the Upanishads. The Upanishads will be more based in metaphysics. I'm currently on one of the last Upanishads, and then I'm going to go off into learn more about Shaivism. But Hinduism has many schools of thought, just like Buddhism. And those schools of thought, there's even an atheistic school of thought within Hinduism as well. And they're all worth exploring. But you go Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, Ramayana, and then the Mahabharata, and then back to the Gita. And remember to purchase many different Gitas, because every translation of the Gita is going to be relatively the same, but how it's translated is always going to feel like I've read 3 different Bhagavad Gitas because every time I read the Bhagavad Gita, the translation is a little bit different, and it paints a story. It paints good, understand an allegory story, which you'll later, digest and uncover when you learn more about Hinduism. So
sorry, could I ask, what is those four laws of
the Buddha?
Yeah.
The Noble Truths?
The Four Noble Truths?
Yeah.
The truth of suffering, the sensation of suffering, and the path that leads to the end of suffering.
How would I determine if those 4 truths are actually 4 truths? Truths.
Vic?
Okay.
Well, as an Israelite, I got 613 regulations to follow.
A lot.
And if you read me off these truths and they either sit right or don't sit right with me, does that say anything about whether they're actually true or not?
No, in fact, you can disagree. One of the greatest things about Buddhism is you can disagree with one of the truths and still be in there and still continue to hear Buddhism. They're not going to kick you out or get mad at you for disagreeing. It's going to be up to you whether or not you want to sit there any further and listen. But you might come back to them after learning many other things and revisit the Four Noble Truths and be like, aha, you know what I mean? And there's beauty in that. I didn't always agree with the no soul concept in Buddhism, but I've learned to see how it's equal to saying Brahman. Nirvana is equal to saying Brahman. I see how there's similarities in there between the two, and I understand the differences, and I appreciate both as legit paths to one's liberation. So there's no like, me separating Buddhism from Hinduism. In a lot of dharmic faiths, we appreciate each other, and we don't really, have that much problems with each other, because we all kind of have that non-duality that unites our schools of thought. Whether it's Shinto, whether it's the Tao, whether it's Buddhism, Hinduism, and the many schools within them. So yeah, the Four Noble Truths. I'll start with the first one. Can you hear me when I go out, or do I have to like?
Yeah, I hear you.
We can hear you.
Yeah, we're hearing you.
All right, tell me if you can hear me.
No.
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 All right.
No.
So
Now we can hear you. We can hear you now.
Yeah, that sucks because I can't really remember them that good. I have bad active memory. I mean, I can send them to you, or you can look them up. They should pop up on Google, no problem.
Let's not worry about that at the moment. I'm more interested in the underlying epistemology of why I would believe the same beliefs as you, right? Because if there's good,
more about self-reflection and sitting with the things that are said, and when you do that, you either agree or disagree depending on your level of comprehension of the things, and you ask for help with comprehending them. The abbot will usually help you with comprehending them through the nature of which he understands. Now remember, I want to point this out about Buddhism. The reason why Buddha was able to go to so many different places and add Buddhism to a plethora of different spiritual.
There was several of them, wasn't there?
Because
there were many Buddhas.
Yeah, there's many different Buddhas. Buddha is a title, and one becomes a Buddha. And to be Bu and Da means one who's above their intellect. That's what Buddha means, one who's above their intellect. So yeah, and so the Buddha traveled, and when he saw indigenous face, he didn't say, "Hey, convert to Buddhism." No, on the contrary, he had that middle path, and that middle path was so good it could be applied to other spiritual, indigenous, and other religions. And a lot of times when you look at Shinto and Buddhism, it mixes. When you look at Zen Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, they have elements like Tibetan Buddhism has elements of Bon in it. So the Buddha's middle path that he speaks of is a very adaptable path. In fact, in a lot of Buddhist places, you'll find people who've only taken their 5 precepts and they're Christians or they're Islam, or you know what I mean? Like they might be in there, but they've only taken their 5 precepts and that's it. But they sit with the Buddha because the Buddha is so good at helping with, he's like a therapist. He really just like, he's like a next level therapist because he helps with the realization of the dissolving of the ego. He helps break the ego like completely. It's like having an ego death. When you step to the Buddha and you start learning Buddhism, you're ego deathing. You're totally ego deathing because he explains the nature of what you think is the I, what you think is the self, and by doing that, he destroys the ego. And then, it's about practice, meditation. And I want to move into Hinduism because I've covered a lot of Buddhism. And Hinduism,
I want to steer it back to, so we were, this all came about because we were talking about whether abortion should be legal or illegal.
Yeah. So we're talking about morality.
Right. Yeah. Well, maybe, but with regards to Buddhism, Hinduism, and your stance that I'm talking to you, Joy, right now, that it should be legal. Which part? Like there seems like Buddhism, Hinduism. There's different routes to go down, different branches, and different directions you can go with it. Totally understand that. I'm wondering which part of that really directed you or guided you to your stance on abortion.
It would be more leaning toward the Hinduism, because understanding that everything that you see is the same energy, the play of just individual jivas lost in the nature of duality, forms that are in duality, and you're a soul on a journey to moksha. There's something very liberating about that and very freeing of that. And in that sense, that really didn't make my abortion beliefs. It didn't really. I had those prior to even being Buddhist or or Hindu. I believe that freedom of choice was correct, and that's kind of Hinduism just kind of fit right into freedom. Really just fit right into freedom, and Buddhism. And I want to say something like Buddhism. It would be called your karma, and Hinduism, it's your lila, it's your dharma. It's the way things play out. So in both aspects, there's no you're wrong or you're bad, you're evil. There's nothing like that. You know what I mean?
Well,
if you had taken the opposite stance and you thought you had thought abortion should be illegal going in before you were introduced to Buddhism, Hinduism, if you had that a hard stance that all abortion should be illegal, do you think you would have changed your mind and came to the realization that it should be legal?
I think that if I had the impression that abortion should be illegal and I went into Buddhism would be like, it's whatever. And then Hinduism would be like, it is what it is. So I think those would be tough pills to swallow. But upon sitting with the Buddha and upon sitting with Hinduism, I would say I would be fully convinced, because they are, like I said, they're more of a unifying, free philosophy, unifying and freeing philosophies and beliefs. Hinduism is more scientific in a sense, because it has those elements of non-dualism, and it often, in fact, quantum physics, the CERN lab has one of the Shiva forms out in front of their cafeteria, just to show that they see the relation between. And then when we talk about the making of the bomb, we know that one of the person that helped make the bomb, the atomic bomb, said, "I have become the maker and destroyer of worlds." He quoted a Gita verse. We also know that most of Islam, the Middle East, got their numerology from India and from their system, their concept of zero and numerology. It greatly influenced the two philosophers who had came up with the numbers, the numeral system in the Middle East. And these are you can ChatGPT, you can fact check me too, because I've used ChatGPT. I'm on point with this.
Maybe I'll do that after the live here. I want to circle back and refocus back. So the reason I asked all those questions was that was basically like a real reason check. So it sounds like the real reason that you have the abortion should be legal stance is because of Hinduism. You believe Hinduism because I think this is what you're saying. We are all the same energy, and we are all on our way to moksha, something. Excuse my pronunciation. Moksha. Yeah, moksha. Okay. And so I'm here. I've been listening to Ronald. Hopefully, I'll be able to get back.
I didn't have those beliefs. I want to clarify something. I didn't have those beliefs prior to my pro-choice stance. You know what I mean? Like, I had my pro-choice stance going into Buddhism and Hinduism.
Yeah.
Okay. So is there a different reason besides Buddhism and Hinduism that you have this stance?
Freedom. I mean, it's just freedom. I mean, freedom to express, freedom to decide what to do with your own body. Freedom. I mean, and I just happened to find I found my spiritual home. I mean, the Abrahamic religion, I had very, very horrible experiences with the Abrahamic religion. They are very hive-minded. Like, I didn't find that in Hinduism. Hinduism and Buddhism greeted me with a question. It posed a question to a question. They really digested and break things down to their understandings, and it was good to have answers instead of reach a brick wall where it's just like, oh, you got to leave it up to faith, or it's as it is as it says. And so, you know what I mean? Like, there's none of that in Hinduism. There's none of that in Buddhism. We don't have this rigid doctrine that tells you to obey. You know what I mean?
Please, I beg you, I beg you to differentiate between, the Abrahamic religions of the Roman Empire and see Abrahamic faith, which is only Israel, and it was never in the Middle East. And Zion.
I would say Islam has over masculinity kind of struggles and problems.
When you truly
sexism in there.
When you truly know the thing, then you'll know why Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X both fell out of the Abrahamic frying pan, as it were, and into the Muslim fire. Yeah, because all of these Abrahamic religions were protagonists on the slave ship Jesus. That's why they all believe in Jesus.
Malcolm X disagreed with Elijah Muhammad. Elijah Muhammad got his information from a drifter who mixed a lot of Islam and mixed it all up in a bag. And there's many different schools of thought within Islam. He mixed it up in a bag. But I will say this: Elijah Muhammad.
Hey, let's jump back over. Yeah, we're kind of drifting away from our topic. Let's go ahead and bring it back. So, what was your original question, Pierce?
Hold on.
Before we kind of drifted out.
Make a point on abortion.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ronald. On abortion, yes.
It's something that I've experienced in my and in my annus horribilis, like the year before the Queen's in 1996, I experienced 2 abortions. Yeah, neither of which I agreed to, but I just followed because it's her body, and that's a decision that I cannot make for her. That's what I said to my wife at the time. Yeah, is that if that's your decision, it's not for me to, you understand? Whereby, after remonstrating with the spirit, got arrested. Annus Horribilis, September 1996. Same time Tupac died. Yeah. And I had to ask, about my own criminal activities and what immorality God would put upon me. Yeah, and as I say to you, I never found any fair exchanges, no robbery. Yeah, so I wasn't convicted by the spirit of my drug dealing, but the fact that I didn't do anything to prevent the 2 abortions in my life that year is I feel the conviction on my spirit, and then I know that really and truly the parents of the universe are very, very, very concerned about the children.
That sounds like a really heavy burden.
Yeah.
It sounds like that's something that you have some pretty heavy feelings on. That's rough, when we go through something dramatic like that.
As I say to you, I'm not speaking about something like, it's not existential for me. It's you understand, it's something that I've had to try and understand, and I've studied all of these Luciferian trusts, and there's no morality in them.
Let me ask you, Ronald. Or actually, go ahead, Pierce. You go ahead. You still have the thought.
Ron. Yeah, okay. I mean, you can. But is this scenario, these abortions that your wife at the time, it sounds like, had? I don't want to ask about any specific things directly, is this something that I can ask indirect questions about? Is that okay to ask?
Yeah, you can. It wasn't just my wife. I was
it was another
I
circumstance.
seen another lady, and they both had abortions like within a month of each other, and as I say to you, it I still feel the conviction today.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay. I'd like to try to talk a little bit more abstractly. If someone, maybe me, if I have a really terrible experience that I feel awful about what happened, and I guess what conclusions could I draw from, having such an awful experience that I totally regret happening?
Well, no threats really. We hear no evil, see no evil, and speak no evil, and in such way, we propagate righteousness. Because like as I say, the demonic is intrinsic in a world of flesh, and in a world of flesh where that physicality is nothing but eternal imagination. It's just a dreamscape, and as I say to anyone who'd listen, it's two matrices. Yeah, because like the sacred geometric projection, holographic projection, which is Mother Earth. Yeah.
I just want to go back. Excuse me. I just want to go back to the original question here. I'm wondering if I talk past you a little bit, and that's probably my fault. So, let's say I have this experience, and it's something that, looking back, it's terrible, and I could have I should have done something to prevent it. Maybe I should have tried harder. Maybe my daughter gets in an accident and is injured, and I really should have been able to do something to prevent that, and I feel terrible about it. And what conclusions should or could I draw from that experience?
Well, as I say to you, it's important to elevate. This life is about enlightenment, and forgiveness is the only true human gift which is received by those who give it. Why? Because, as I say, there's no man who can sin against another, but all sin is against the source. No man can judge another without prophecy. Yeah, and as I say to you, these eternal regulations are sacrosanct, and they will prevail.
Like with my example, are these conclusions that I can draw from that experience, from that accident?
And as I say to you, true. Okay, look at it this way. Yeah, human differences are a physical thing called flesh. Similarities are a spiritual thing called the soul. And the soul of humanity is one single being. And that single being is manifested in the 9 fruits of the Spirit. Yeah, in Galatians 5. Yeah, the fruits of the Spirit are forgiveness, peace, love, joy, gentleness, self-control. Forgiveness is one of them. And as I say, these 9 things are things that only human beings can do. to propagate the eternal spirit of humanity, and that's what we're here to learn. That's what we're going to reach nirvana in. Yeah. So as I say to you, it's really quite simple when you boil it down, because the flesh, the physical differences, you know, man, woman, dark skin, light skin, like nationhood, all of those things are a physicality which is temporal. So then, you know, what is real? What could be real? Only the spirit.
How do I know?
And like I say in Galatians 5, well, you know, just come and see. Do those things. You do those things, those 9 things, those 9 investments in the spirit.
I do those things.
Yeah.
So, do those
like
things.
as I say to you,
how do I figure it out?
I
after I
had
do
to
those
forgive
things?
myself. Huh? How do you
How
mean?
do I figure out if the spirit exists? Like, let's say I do these 9 things. How do I know the spirit really exists?
Then you know, as I say, it's something which you have to succumb and see. You have to invest in it to know it. And like personally, I know how and why. My own personal investment in the Sermon on the Mount is how I laid up treasure for myself in heaven, where thieves can break in, but they cannot leave without permission to steal. And that's what the Tower of Babel was all about. Like,
I'm investing.
And you know, they never spilt. They never spilt the blood of sibling rivalry. Yeah,
I'm going all in here.
For
all my chips are on the table.
For 600,000 years, the first human gods who lived on Earth, they never spilt the blood of sibling rivalry. Yeah, but what they did do, which was wrong, was to build pyramidical towers, which at solstice time climb back into heaven, which is the 3 stars in Orion's belt.
For all these things, Ron, for all these things, would I have to believe that the spirit exists first before I could accept that these other things that you're saying is true?
Well, you know, as I say, as you seek, you shall find. So, you know, life and death is in the power of the tongue. And as I say to you, this is how you create or destroy this environment for yourself, nobody else.
I'm seeking. I'm investing. Okay. How do I figure out if the spirit is real? What do I look for? How do I make that determination?
Well, like as I say to you, like, you know, the rules of karma are about the circular regulations of eternity. Yeah. And you know, that figure 8, if you follow that number 8, you with your finger, you see what goes around comes around. Yeah. What you give is what you're gonna get. You know, and you shall reap what you sow. So look, karma is the Indian interpretation of these eternal regulations. Do as you would be done by. There's nobody in this world that wants to die. Yeah.
I think what you're saying is,
you know, even that fetus, even that is of eternal law, because you know, it says you should do as you would be done by. Yeah. Love your neighbor as yourself, for you shall reap what you sow. What goes around comes around. What you give is what you get. Chickens come Yeah, because as I say to
So I
you,
have to.
I live in London today, above the law. Police can't look me in the face. I don't wear a seatbelt. I drive all around town in my van. Yeah. And they can't look in my direction because I done told them 28 years ago about the eternal regulations which they are transgressing.
I would like to tackle the question for you because I've sat with that question for a year, and the Buddha, you see, the Buddha says no soul, right? He says no soul, and he lays a pretty good argument by saying what you just said. Show me the soul that you speak of. Show me it. And so, ultimately, Hinduism talks about there is something that is always the witnesser. There is something that is always observing. Hold on, yeah. There's something that is always the observer. There's nothing that there's no such thing as a non-observer. There's an observer that observes the senses. There is an observer that observes the mind. There is always an observer. And that observer is the jiva, the subtlest thing closest to Akash, the Akash element. And the Akash element is the closest element to Brahman. And the Akash element in science is equivalent to space or ether or the space, the gravity. So in that understanding, you understand that you cannot physically provide somebody with a soul, but you comprehend there is a witnesser that witnesses what goes on. He witnesses, he understands he's feeling, he understands he's thinking, it does these things. So Hinduism, that's the reason why Hinduism has an Atman. The Buddha argued that these things are all just mental formations of the mind coming from the five senses. And though he is partly correct, he still can't provide an answer for why the subtle observer exists. So there, within that comes the jiva, the soul, the thing that is observing what it is and feeling and thinking what it is. So in that, it could be anything, a dog, an animal, and a tree, it could be anything. That's ultimately where I was like, okay, yeah, that in my nature, my experience, that sits well with me more than the Buddha, who is saying that that's just the five senses that lead to the mental formations. Though he is partly correct. Let me make it very clear. The Buddha is very in touch with his Agna chakra, which is his mental center up in his mind, and he views things through a very analytical, self-reflecting, and mind-centered way. So the Buddha's mental clarity can lead one to nirvana, liberation, because he is able to again dissolve that ego that gets in the way of the jiva, of the soul. He dissolves that ego. He dissolves it through mental clarity, psychology, self-reflection. That's why I said sitting with the Buddha is like sitting with a psychiatrist. And again, I'm going to go back to this. What a lot of people don't do is when they go upon self-reflecting, they find a support system, usually in the form of a religion. This is why in Alcoholics Anonymous, they'll often throw Bible verses and stuff like that. But here's the problem with that. It becomes the crutch. It becomes the excuse. It also can become the ground in which somebody launches off of and hardens their ego. And if they become a devotional person and they become over devotional, they can have a spiritual experience, but it will only further ground their ego and cement their ego, because they haven't tried to have that ego death. They've only tried to supply a vice for a vice. And there lies in the problem with somebody who's trying to deal with trauma or not able to deal with their trauma or to self-reflect and digest their trauma. They run away from trauma by finding a vice. And usually that vice can help them launch themselves into great heights. They can be a millionaire, a billionaire. They can manage a lot of willpower from it. They can use that. They can use it for drive. But I caution, because often within the states of like Cat Williams and other people, it becomes a holier than thou persona that they adopt, where they think and they believe in their hearts of hearts that their experience is the only experience. And by declaring so, they're only declaring the hardening of their ego, the strongness of their ego. And that is just not the nature of reality. Somebody cries for Krishna same way somebody cries for Christ. And then one of the reasons why I left particularly Christianity is because I went to a church and I sat down with a female who said, I got something to tell these people and I don't know how they're going to treat me, but I want you there for support. And I said, sure. I went there. It was this group thing. She told this group, this Sunday group, that her parents are lesbians. And they began to dissect her parents' love and compassion as evil and disgusting. And they said, well, pray for her. And they said that come to church. And they, you know what? I tried to talk her. I tried to tell her what they're doing. They're taking advantage of your suffering and they're replacing it with their beliefs. And they're making it so you're on their team. They want you to be a part of their tribe because they have doubt and you represent that doubt. And they're trying to snuff that doubt out because they feel uncomfortable with that doubt. And they're in warrior mode to do so because having that doubt exist for them is a blasphemy. Should not be there. So they're militant and they're egotistic in that nature, but she was too far gone. She'd already accepted this tribe that had brought her in. And I was stuck there listening to somebody preach about how love, no matter which form it comes in, is if it's not the male and the woman, if it's not how our God, our authority wants it, then it's not right. This is a subjective reality indoctrination. This is the attachment to a doctrine that militarizes people and also empowers people. And also, yes, it can bring them out of darkness, but often it hardens into this ego that they think they're holier than thou or better than thou. And it's sorry. It's just not based in nature. It's not based in reality. Yeah, it's not.
As I say to you, I'm not being egotistic when I say to you that the combined eternal forces of eternity are both feminine and masculine. So, look, maritime law, you're a pair who rents your child out in registration. Yeah. But the eternal yin and yang are the only pair who rent out one human soul to transcend 10 billion bodies of flesh.
You got the Tao completely wrong. Let me explain something. The yin and the yang. The white dot exists in the black dot to symbolize wholeness. A pair of opposites. One does not exist without opposite. Does not exist without one.
Okay, hey,
masculine
let me jump in real quick, guys.
Are one in the same. Masculine and feminine energy are one in the same. They're not different. They are the same energy. So when you sit there trying to talk about marital law and dealing with separation between male and female and biology, you're separating the energies into categories and dualism. You're trying to break it down into two opposite energies that need to be opposite when they're one and the same. They're just different manifestations of the same energy.
Okay. Let me jump in real quick, guys. So I think the goal that Pierce and I have is, and I'm speaking for you a little bit, Pierce, so jump in and clean up whatever I say. But what we're really trying to do is, I think Pierce said it earlier, and I really agree with this. Is you have two very distinct concepts and ideas of this particular topic, should abortion be legal? And what we're trying to figure out is, from our standpoint, we're sitting at neutral, and so you two are on opposite sides of us, and we're trying to figure out which one of you has
right.
the true, is right, has has the truth, is holding the truth, and
Who do you think? We've given you. I'm giving you all I got.
Yeah. You've given us a lot.
I don't know about him about that.
Yeah. Well, what we heard from you is basically just kind of sit with the Buddha, and and then look at like the 4 different truths and things like that. And Ronald,
go into Hinduism. I didn't tell you about like.
Oh, you know what? You're right. Yeah, you did. You did drift over it. You said, yeah, it's more about Hinduism. So to look more at that.
Yeah.
And I think you brought up the Upanishads and things like that, right?
If you don't agree with because if you don't agree with the no soul concept, then jump into Hinduism is what I'm going to say. And Hinduism has its own methodologies through yoga, through the practice of amhisha, which is a dietary practice, similar to what he was talking about above. There are similarities between Dr. Sebi's practices and amhisha. But amhisha is not a requirement, but it is one way it is the yogic path to the yogi path to get to moksha, so to speak, to the realization of moksha.
Okay.
And yoga is the breaking of the physical. Yoga is the breaking of the physical to realize the divine, the energy, the oneness. So it has its different schools. It has its different schools of yoga, and it's about cultivating bhakti, devotion. And devotion in the sense that it's non-discriminatory devotion. Let me make that clear, because it's devotion in the sense that, because that in Hinduism there's many different forms that all represent the one single source. So when I say that it's about yoga is about bhakti, cultivating bhakti and devotion, and getting to that breaking of the physicality to where you can be in a devotional state. It's a beautiful thing. It's a long process. It's a more for a person who wants to, either embetter their life or go for their ultimate reality. It's for one of those. It's for both those things, because somebody could be a home person and still be a yogi, but at the same time, that yogi understands if he wants to reach the ultimate reality or liberation, then it's time to go be an ascetic and go into more intense practices.
Okay, let me ask it this way, and I'll give you both a chance to say it like this. I'm going to take a little bit more of a woman's perspective. I at least try the best I can. I may fail horribly at this, but let's just imagine that I'm a woman and I'm pregnant, and I'm trying to decide whether or not to keep this baby. And so I come to you, Joey, and I say, Joey, what should I do? And then I come to you, Ronald, and I say, Ronald, what should I do?
As I say,
let's start with you, Ronald. Let's just imagine I'm pregnant and I don't know whether or not I should keep this baby. What should I do, Ronald? And how should and on top of that, how should I figure out what to do? Like, take me through the steps of what you would do to figure this out.
Personally, like when my wife approached me with this abortion, like it was our 4th child, it was her 5th, and what she was saying is that her body couldn't, she think maybe she'll die, her body couldn't really take another child, because we had 3 in 3 years, and she had 1, 2 years, 3 years before that. So as I said to her in the first instance, because we were a young couple and we weren't married and stuff, and like she got pregnant, and I said personally, I was 19 at the time, I'm not, I'm not old enough to look after myself, let alone a little kid. Nevertheless, whichever way you decide, I will do my utmost to support you. Yeah. So, and like, you know, when I gave her the same answer about the abortion, she was fuming. She was infuriated. And we went to the abortion clinic, and the doctor said, well, you know, your boyfriend's right. It's your decision. It's your body. He can't make that decision for you.
Sure.
Yeah. And now personally, yeah, after my experiences and with my remonstration with the spirit, I know that it was wrong.
Okay. For that particular instance, or are you saying it would be wrong all across the board?
Across the board.
Across the board.
It's
okay.
Morally insensitive to the Holy Spirit.
Okay. And now what if I came to you and now I take you do have children now, right?
Yeah.
I've got 2 myself. Okay.
We had 3. We had 3.
You had 3.
He had 4. Yeah, so
okay.
like the other one was like a friend.
Do you have any daughters?
I have one daughter.
One daughter.
And like,
okay.
I fully understand why, you know, any woman can say, oh, your son did this or your son did that. But when your daughter brings your grandchildren to you, those are your grandchildren.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I got 2 gorgeous grandchildren.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. Yeah, that's wonderful to hear.
And at the end of the day,
congratulations.
You know, we had 2 sons, and I said I really want my daughter. You know, and my daughter really respected me for that, and she does like follow, you know, daddy's teachings, as it were. And like, as I say to you, I've lived my life in that Sermon on the Mount. I practiced it on the streets, and I preached it in prison, and I even preached it to my family. You know, I sat them down and I read it to them. Yeah. And I know that, you know, the investment of self in knowledge of Christ is the Kundalini. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's why Christ had 33 he lived for 33 years, and we all have 33 vertebrae, and the Kundalini goes up through the spine, up the chakras. Well, comes down first. Yeah, that Christ consciousness oil between your pituitary and your pineal gland. Yeah, which those veins in between the pituitary and the pineal gland are the cross.
Okay.
Yeah,
let me take a quick break, and I want to acknowledge something real quick. Brain Food, thanks for gifting Pierce all those tiny dinies. That's awesome. Because and everyone, please take a minute to follow Pierce, so that he can get his own live, and he can so he can guest me one of these days, as I've guested him. So he's a great creator. So I've actually gotten a lot of inspiration from him. So I'd really love it if everyone followed him and helped him along his journey to get onto TikTok as a creator. Thank you. And so, okay, so back to you, Ronald. Let me ask you this question. And please, I don't mean this in any disrespectful way. I don't wish this on anybody. So before I ask you this, because this could be construed as a bit like kind of close to the heart, but what if your daughter came to you and said, you know, Daddy, I've been SA'd and I'm pregnant. And, you know, because as a father of a daughter, you know, I know what I would want to do, and I won't repeat what I would want to do on TikTok. It's not meant to be heard here.
Yeah.
But I think as from father to father, we probably share the same sentiment. So in that sense, and your daughter says something to you along the lines of, I'm very triggered by this. I'm very traumatized by this. And in that sense, what do you do then? And
I'd always try.
Or what would you say to her? Yeah.
I'd say, well, if you can't have it and look at the baby for the sake of your attacker, yeah, I'd raise it, because that life is sacrosanct. It's not that child's fault that this assailant put this on you. And in the first instance, I kind of know how my wife was sort of damaged in that way with her first partner, which was a date rape situation, date grape, and he forced her to have an abortion, and she was having twins, and in the end she managed to have one of them. It was a horrible abortion, backstreet abortion,
that's very
hackness and stuff. And as I say to you, her past abuses was probably why our relationship broke up, because she had that baggage, and personally, I'm I'm the go with the flow guy. I want, when I came out of prison, I was a house husband, and I did all those homely things, and when we got married on her birthday, because I said that, I come out of prison, I ain't got nothing to give you. Yeah, and you worked. She was a housing officer, and you worked throughout my sentence, and you supported me, and you supported the children, and I come out now, and I don't have anything to give to you. I can give you myself, and as I say to you, if I was still with my wife, I wouldn't know what I know today.
Yeah.
Because the abused people get into abusive relationships, and it's a cycle of abuse.
Yeah.
And as I say to you, when you know the sanctity of life, you do anything to preserve.
Okay, I hear that. And let me shift over to Caddy Joey. I'm going to pose the question a little bit different, because if I pose it in the same way, it's as I'm kind of testing the edges of the conviction and the belief, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna pose it to you a little bit differently, Caddy. And it's just a way to kind of get at how do we figure out which way to go. And so Caddy Joey, the scenario is a touch different. It's not because of trauma or anything like that. However, and you know what? All the time I've been talking to you, Caddy, I don't even know if you have kids or not, but this was your daughter, and she just says, "Daddy, it was, I just had a time with a guy, and it was, I'm regretting this. It's a mistake on my part, and I'm really considering, I'm really considering just keeping it because, I just feel immensely guilty, and I really don't want to take a life. So in that sense, Caddy Joey, what then, but I'm really leaning that way, just me as your daughter. However, I really don't know what to do. So what would you say to her or me if I'm your daughter?
She doesn't know what to do. I would say first examine whether or not do you think that the qualities within this person that you're having the child with, do you recognize those qualities to be good and fair and caring and all the above? Do you think that you have fault? Do you think for a minute, do you have faults? You may have false expectations that might not be real or there. Or do you think that the expectations that you are putting forth or thinking that will exist in the future will exist in the future? And how passionately do you feel about that? And if you feel about that in a passionate way, then go with what your heart tells you, which your body and your choice. But understand that having a child is a responsibility. And in that responsibility comes a lot of things that come along with that responsibility, including including expectations that you thought you had becoming realized to be false. And then when you have these false expectations that turn out to be not what they turn out to be, and there tends to be a divorce or a split up, then it's still your responsibility to help that child and to come up with a fair parenting plan with that child if it goes that route. But if it doesn't go that route, everything's all good. I wish you and your significant other the best, and we'll welcome the grandchild into my family with good grace. And if you want an abortion, then that is your choice. That is your body, and you understand that is from my spiritual perspective, that is your karma. You know what I mean? And that's the way it is.
Okay. One last, and I'll check in with Pierce.
Hold on. Let me just look at that briefly, because, like, as I say,
okay, go ahead,
me personally, like, I'm biased because I've had to look into all of this, and all I see is Planned Parenthood with the abortion clinics in the ghetto and the fertility clinics in Harley Street. It's to me, it's just Nazi eugenics, and really and truly, human beings can recreate in this environment, but I see genetic modification as total blasphemy. And I see like chemical medical practices as poison, and Freudian cynical psychology. It's all come out of Germany, and it's not healthy. It's corporate, and it's not. It's these liberties which the corporation has given you, and it's not freedom.
Let me ask you this real quick, Ronald, because I did hear you bring this up earlier, and so and the folks we talk to, that Pierce and I talk to, they often have multifaceted reasons for why they believe in something, and so I think one of the things we try to get to is like the reason behind the reason, like the deep-seated reason. So let me ask you this: if you discovered that what you just said about eugenics and things of that sort, that abortion isn't related to that at all, and you discovered this information and you verified it to be true, to the point where you just say, you know what, I can't deny that abortion and eugenics just have no relation whatsoever. It's just not true. What would that do to your belief in that abortion should be illegal? Would you still continue to believe that, or would you stop believing it, or maybe even doubt it?
As I say, that my own personal investigations is what I come to, and I have to speak out light, because like, as I said to you personally, like with the scripture that I was given to reveal to these authorities, like it's about the matrix, you know, and there's two matrices, and you know, in the film, when Morpheus brought Neo down into the loaded room for the very first time, and he showed him that Duracell battery, Neo had to go back into his body, and he had to be physically sick. Because like true is too true, is too true. But these were the facts of your existence. But then if you know that hard fact of this human existence is that, you know, we do all have a soul, and that soul is one in this universe. And at the end of the day, that's how God's got you, because your soul is that battery, is that like a black box flight recorder. So the watcher, which my friend mentioned, is your soul, which is one, which is the spirit of humanity, which contains all of those 9 fruits of humanity. And we could all do it. We could all charge up your soul with the humanitarian things, or not.
All right. I'm a bit lost here. So let me kind of re-ask it again. So are you saying that if you found out that none of this is related to abortion, and this to you is true, that you discover this is true, would this change your mind about abortion being legal or not? Or would there be, okay, like, so that wouldn't change your mind?
I'm viewing it with a view from the Creator.
Okay, I got you.
And why why the souls of innocent children cry out to God from under his throne. There is a God, and he made your soul into a black box flight recording device. And when it goes back to God, he's just gonna press play to see. And I've got on my page, actually, a gentleman who explained how he had an out-of-body experience, and he went into a ring, and inside this ring he saw 3 screens of like all his thoughts and all his deeds, and you know, all his relationships with these fellow human beings. And as I say, your soul is that observer, your soul is that watcher in the truth, and the truth is only one thing. Okay. And like, as I say to you, like, you know, the physical is neither here nor there. It's the figment of eternal imagination, and you can't make profits, and that's what these Luciferian trusts are confused about as well in this realm, because the only gain you can make is in that soul, in that humanity, in doing righteousness. And abortion is unrighteous.
Okay. I see what you're saying there. There was a lot to unpack there, but I'm picking up what you're putting down, so I got that. Let me jump over back to Caddy Joey real quick, because I had this question for him, and the question to you, Joey, is there, what circumstance, if any, can you think of in which you would say, no, you have to have this baby. You really, really should. I strongly advise you to.
None.
None. Okay. Okay. That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. All right. Now I'm going to check back in with Pierce. So
I'm here.
yeah. Hey. So anywhere else you want to go with this?
I would like to say something. And you got to understand, in my particular spirituality, your ancestors, they get dissolved. They move on from the next plane of existence. So there is no this particular being that hasn't become sentient. There is no connection between us. There's just the fact that they chose my daughter's body to be born into, and the characteristics from which it'll be born, it'll inherit the physical traits along with some of the only some of the ancestral traits, because again, we help dissolve our ancestors. That's why we burn the clothing, we burn the body, and we also do also other things to help the ancestors move on to the other planes of existence. Though some might linger based on karmic traits that haven't been resolved, but that particular being who enters that particular womb, it has its own past lives, its own karmic traits, and has chosen my daughter for those specific types of traits, mental, physical, all that. So within her sound mind, if she chooses an abortion, that is that entity's or being's karma playing out, and I have no will or no control over it. Same with if a woman that I get pregnant, it's the same scenario. It's not it's not for me to decide. It is what it will be. You know what I mean? And in that is an acceptance of it is what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
okay. That makes sense.
In my own personal conviction, I have heard the spirit tell me that, you're ultimately responsible. And at the end of the day, the human innocence is about asexuality. Yeah. And true sexual relations are in holy wedlock and for the purpose of procreation. Yeah, because kosher sex is only during ovulation and not in the 3 weeks. Well, 1 week before and 1 week after menstruation is the window within which, so like, some kosher marriages only have that relation in 5 days of the month.
I would
and like, as I said to you, the only other kosher contraception is abstinence. So
okay.
like, as I said,
I appreciate that, Ronald.
You see in the regulations.
I want to add something. In this my particular spiritual tradition, the Akash is the subtle element which is associated with somebody feeling spirit. You are feeling the element called Akash, which is closest to Brahman because it is the most subtlest element that exists within the ether that's closest to source. That particular element, Akash, can only be navigated through mental formations and sensations. So if there is an attachment, if there is an overwhelming feeling, it is going to be perceived accordingly to these mental formations and these sensations. So when I said that somebody who is very devotional can have an experience, that means with anything, and that experience will cause the pineal gland to drip, and that pineal gland will cause a hallucinatory effect. But that hallucinatory effect still relies on the mental formations and the karma, which is the memory of past life and other types of memory. So it will use memory to display to the person a form. And that particular form will be hallucinatory. And it might be Jesus, might be Ganesh, it could be your imaginary dragon if you want it to be. You know what I mean? And so that is how the Akash works. And it definitely is seen to work if you look at even mega churches, they know this. They have the ability to make people freak out and to do certain things. Because when the collective consciousness gathers, the Akash becomes thick. And when the Akash becomes thick, it becomes tangible. And when it becomes tangible, that preacher and that person knows that the Akash is tangible and he can manipulate those people. And especially if they're devotees, they will see what he wants them to see. So if he wants them to see demons, they'll see demons. If they believe in demons, watch too many horror flicks, they'll probably see that. Or if they're very devout people and very saint-like, they'll see probably whatever their religion is. So again, it still comes to the risk of hardening the ego based on experiential perceptions. And the pineal gland, which drips that response, which gives that hallucinatory response, still relies on memory. This is why when people do drugs, right? When people do drugs, they say don't do drugs. It's a shortcut. And it's a shortcut you might not be ready for. It's a crash course. It can manifest in many, 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 many different ways, especially if you're not a spiritual person. You can have a crash course with drugs that lead you to some very horrible experiences or very pleasant. But still, this is the nature of the Akash. And when you interpret spirit interpret a spirit for the Akash, you really have heavy emotions and heavy memories, and it's fine. It's perfectly fine. But I would caution against, that's my rebuttal to what you're saying about spirit speaking. Spirit speaks, and you feel, and you go through your emotions, and you feel a certain type of way, and you might be devoted in a certain type of way, or might be establishing yourself to a new indoctrination, and whatever speaks is going to take, hallucinatory form, or is going to be agreeing with the nature of your experience. So it can still be heavily rooted in attachments to certain pleasures, certain feelings, certain emotions, and yada, yada, yada. So, that's just my perspective of spirit in the Akash.
Okay. So
all right.
let me look at that briefly, because as I say to you,
actually, Ronald, if it's all right, hang on a sec. I want to check in with Pierce real quick. I want to kind of steer it back to our topic at hand. So is there anything else you want to as far as the topic goes?
Oh, my voice, excuse me. There is, I want to hop off in a minute because I'm gonna have to get some shut eye here at some point. But one final thing that I would like to ask Caddy Joey and Ronald is do you understand the other person's perspective better? Do you have a deeper understanding of where they're coming from, how they came to their conclusion? And we'll start with Ronald. What do you think?
Yeah. I have a great respect for his understandings, and as I say to you, he's definitely a good person, at heart. But then the road to destruction is paved with good intentions, because evil abounds because good men stand aside and do nothing. So when you really, as I have to look and understand the true nature of the cosmos, then that all these Egyptological religions all focus on the sun as the light, whereas the sun is a reflection of the Akashic records. That's why I sun gaze.
I do sun gazing, these Rockefeller rocket science people say, don't look at the sun, because they don't want you to awaken. That's why they're spraying the stuff in the air with the aeroplanes, and
All right.
at the end of the
I'm
day,
glad you
I
understand
know
Joey,
that
respect
the sun is, yeah, the sun is a reflection. Yeah, that's why there's two. And you see them separating on the MasterCard logo. Yeah. And the Rockefeller rocket science, they take the ether and the firmament out of the periodic table, because then if you know about these things, then you'll know about the energy, the natural free energy which is available to all, and the sun is a reflection of that, because that's where the Akashic records are kept.
All right,
Okay,
I'm gonna
Joey.
jump in real quick. Yeah, we'll jump over to Joey because Pierce has to go. So
yeah, I would say that I fully understand his perspective. I'm familiar with Western esoteric mysticism and Western mysticism practices. I'm also very familiar with Afrocentric spiritual religious thinking and thought. But however, I choose the Eastern esoteric and the Eastern perspective of both sacred geometry, of both esoteric and tantric and yantra practices, and alchemic. The Eastern is very different esoterically to the West compared to the Western narratives. The Western narratives of esoteric practices and other practices seem to focus on manipulation, control, and
Yes.
using, whereas in the Eastern are more about self exploration and feeling one, being one with the cosmos and everything else like that. Western esoteric practices, there's some when it comes to indigenous spirituality, is really animism based, nature based, which is really cool. But then you get into the more Abrahamic schools of mysticism, and those mysticisms tend to be focused around manipulation and control and maintaining some type of order between things, or getting your own way. And so when you use syncretism, here's the problem. I have a problem with syncretism because syncretism is a footstool for people to try to make other people come to their particular side of the table, or a converting tool. And Kundalini has nothing to do with Western esoteric definitions. They try to map it as Christ consciousness and all these other things, and it's not. Kundalini is strictly a Hindu. It has not been a Dharma, Eastern spiritual practices. It's being adopted by Western frameworks.
okay, I want to jump in. I want to jump in. Yeah, we just wanted to see if you like gained any understanding of each other's position and things like that.
Is also a planetary great awakening alignment with the Siriuses and all the planets in our solar system, and that's what I experienced in 1998.
Okay.
So I had that reflection in my life for the Kundalini things that I did, the investment that I made in Christ Kundalini consciousness. Yeah. Because like, as I say to you, with the Sermon on the Mount, I laid up treasure for myself where thieves could break in, but they couldn't leave without permission to steal. Yeah, because that's heaven. That's heaven. And the first ever like holy war in heaven between Babylon and Zion was about slavery. Yeah, and enslavement. And God is the sort of guy that if he has a thought, there's someone to go and do it. Yeah, and Satan saw that as enslavement, but this is why there's certain angels which fell with him, because God said, all right, go on, do your worst, mate.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I'm going to
that's
kind
how
of
we
jump in here,
became
Ronald,
friends.
only because Pierce does have to go. So,
Okay, Pierce.
and we're drifting, like we're starting to drift off of the topic
What
at
was
hand.
your last question then, Pierce? What was your last question?
I've already asked it.
Yeah, he did ask it. So, and you answered it. So that's good. That's a great thing. So, all right. Well, this was a great discussion. Well, I do have one last question for both Ronald and Caddy. What did you guys think of this discussion? How do you feel about it at the end of this?
Personally, for me, yeah, because like, as the new true blue light bearer, yeah, it's only about venting my spleen and differentiating between myself and darkness.
Okay. And how about you, Joey? Well, you've been in these discussions before, but
yeah. I mean, it was a good discussion. I mean, at the end of the day, in the Bhagavad Gita, all paths lead to one. So you know what I mean. Like, I that's where I'm comfortable with what he has. I mean, I know there's a difference between Western esoteric and Eastern esoteric, and I know that the Eastern esoteric is often borrowed a lot. With the West has borrowed a lot from Eastern esotericism, including the Kundalini, and the Kundalini, in which that's where we differ, because I do not subscribe to these syncretisms that are often used to make people go to one fold over the other. But I would say that if he would take the Eastern spiritualities and their understandings of both alchemy and sacred geometry and self-exploration and some of their indigenous space, he'll come to understand that one is more embracive of an overall equality, while the other is more embracive of division and duality.
Okay.
Have division and duality, and
all right.
Alchemy.
It's a different thing.
All right. With that,
Alchemy,
I'm going to hang on, Ronald. Hang on, Ronald. With that, I'm going to we're gonna cut Pierce loose so he can get some sleep.
Yeah.
But so what did you think of this, Pierce? I thought this was great. Did you consider this a success?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was pretty good. This was vastly different than the other time that I had an abortion show, basically. I did it on Discord. I did it in the Christ-centered Discord server.
Oh,
and it was vastly different than this. I thought that this might go in a similar vein. It would be very similar conversations. But the demographic was quite a bit different than,
for sure,
for
sure.
In age and in beliefs. So
for sure,
it was this was a really interesting experience. I'm glad I had the opportunity to be here. Let's do something like this again, whether it's on TikTok,
absolutely,
Facebook, wherever. Yeah,
and you got some gifts, you got some likes, so yeah, everyone liked you, so that's a positive.
Yeah, I don't know what any of those things do for me, but they're good, so I'll take it.
Well, I'll catch up with you later. I'll explain it all to you later, but no, this was